I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all new episode of That Recap Show. Now, normally this would be the part where I'd say major spoiler alert ahead, but with the new Beetlejuice movie coming out, we went back and revisited the original Beetlejuice movie. So without further ado, Beetlejuice!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down our favorite moments from the original Beetlejuice movie, it's Jon Jon Rico!
It's showtime.
It's showtime.
It's showtime! I was going to say that. I decided to go with Beetlejuice.
I know. I was like, I'll follow up with it.
Yeah, I know. I think it's perfect because we either did
good.
one or the other. And I was just like, in the moment, like, I was like, which one should I do? Mm-hmm. And then like the surprise look that you were making in the little box. No one else can see this, but that you were making in the little box. I was like, oh, it's perfect. That's what I was going for.
Yeah. I was like, nice.
But yeah, I'm always like, look, this is a movie that I don't watch a ton, but I've watched it multiple times. I'm familiar with it, but like my biggest thing that always amazes me when I go back and rewatch this movie, not only that I enjoy it every single time I watch it. Like that's saying something when you can revisit a movie multiple times and still enjoy it each time that you revisit it. But also every time I rewatch it, I'm amazed at how much I mix this movie and the cartoon Beetlejuice series that came out when we were both younger. I'm always amazed at like how much I kind of mix those two things together because they're both good. Separately, they're both good. I enjoyed both of them, but like there are some pretty major differences in them.
It was a weird era of like movies getting their own animated TV shows like for a while there, and there were some very interesting choices, and this was definitely one of them.
but like I mean the biggest I think the biggest difference right off the bat is the relationship of with Lydia and Beetlejuice. In the cartoon, Lydia's like, best friends with Beetlejuice. Like she uses it to escape the world of the living, and Beetlejuice is like her friend, and they go on crazy adventures and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
In this, it's kind of like, this was a horrible cautionary tale, like with Lydia and Beetlejuice.
Yeah. She's the high school girl.
Yeah, well, that, but also the fact that like she's not friends with Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice like is in love with her, but
it's very, very weird.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, one of the really cool things about this, though, and I've always thought about this when I watched it, is how they portray the differences between like the living world and the underworld and stuff like that, where you kind of see like the underworld's kind of like more lively than the living world, like that Lydia's dealing with. Like that's kind of like her. Oh, that's why I like it here. It's
what draws her to it. And
right.
In the real world, she just seems like someone who just doesn't want to live, which is also a very dour thing in their world.
It's dark.
Dark. It's very the themes are very dark, but they're handled in such a unique way, which is very unique to especially Tim Burton.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot of really cool shining moments in this movie, and that's why I think I'm able to revisit it, and enjoy it each time, type of thing. Like it's never gonna be like on my, must watch like top 3, top 5 movies type of thing of always. But like, if I ever get like I haven't watched Beetlejuice in a while, like let's throw it on. I enjoy it every single time I watch it. Is like my point. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions or some of, I guess, shining moments that you wanted to bring up from the original Beetlejuice?
Yeah, I would say this is a movie that I've seen a handful of times. Excuse me. I've seen a handful of times growing up, but like I never really I probably until very recently when I did the rewatch, I was like I never really like it took in the story from beginning to end. I always just remember moments. And but man, I think when I think of like Tim Burton movies and just his overall style of filmmaking, he's got like his trope that he puts into every single type of movie. But I feel like this movie really is all of those tropes put into like one big mixing pot here. And I don't think, yeah, I just don't think anything really represents his style better than this movie. I think you got like a really cool kind of like real animation, but like also kind of like a mix of CG and practical animation kind of stuff, with like especially with the snake version of Beetlejuice and stuff like that. I think that's really cool. And then of course, like when you have Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters like doing their whole like facial stretching and stuff like that. That was just really amazing. I think that's just one of the more memorable kind of like prosthetics when you go back and you think of like just like Tim Burton memorabilia. If you're going through like a Tim Burton museum, I imagine you're going to see something like that to some degree. It's been used in a bunch of different like art parodies and stuff like that throughout time, I'm sure. So I just always enjoyed how like this yeah. But aesthetically, this movie is just really nice to look at, and I think that's why I love Tim Burton movies so much. Is that even if like they're not like the best story, you're gonna get something out of it either visually, comedically, or even just like the cool themes that he has in this movie. I think yeah, it's just something to appreciate overall as far as a filmmaking perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, what's cool about this is it is that really weird, like dark, kind of twisted, but also humor. Like obviously in this, Beetlejuice is like the villain, but like he still has these moments of like comedy, of lightheartedness. Like you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's always like that kind of playful villainy, I guess, is
Well,
kind
yeah,
of like
a villain
that.
that's having fun doing what he's doing for
Right,
sure.
right. It's pretty interesting, and I mean, it. I will get more into this in predictions and stuff like that, but it's making me wonder, like from what we've seen from the trailers for the sequel,
Right.
like I guess kind of Beetlejuice we're going to see. Like, are we going to still see that? Because in some of the trailers, it looks like they're working together to accomplish something. So I'm very interested to see like
Absolutely.
what's going to happen with that.
And this was only Burton's second movie too. Like he had Pee Wee's Big Adventure a few years before this, and then right after this, he did Batman, which is pretty nuts. Like he had a
Wow.
pretty crazy like 1, 2, 3 punch, and then after that, it was Edward Scissorhands, and then
Yeah.
back to Batman. So like yeah, you really you see watch those like that first like 5 movie stretch of his, and you just like you see like that style of filmmaking. He really nails down kind of like that gothic tone mixed with, but like, he can also do like the light tones at the same time, like the suburbs and Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
I think this one does like a good job of kind of mixing both too, where you have like this house of that Gina David and Alec Baldwin live in, but then also like them just kind of living amongst like a normal society as well. But then you're dealing with this whole underworld society at the same time. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really cool like mixture of styles here.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to give up big takeaways and kind of with half of a takeaway because I, spoiler alert, can read your takeaway. So I know it's part of my takeaway also. So I'm going to go through mine and then I'm going to throw it back to you. So my takeaway is there are, like I was already saying, there are a lot of really, shining moments, good scenes in this movie, both like comedically and even kind of creepy, like when Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin's characters are like starting to shrivel up and
Mhm.
like when they're trying to do the exorcism and stuff.
Oh yeah, like the
That's
big climax of the scene there.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's fucking creepy. Like there are some
yeah.
creepy scenes, and like when Beetlejuice is like the snake version of him, like I
Mhm,
realize
mhm.
like that's pretty creepy.
Oh yeah.
Um,
It's
but
PG. Apparently, like this is a PG movie. I can't
but
think
that's
they
it's the old PG. Like I feel like
yeah.
but
This is a
we
definitely. I think at one point, Beetlejuice just says "fuck this model." I thought like this, the model, the small model thing. I'm like, he just throws they throw f words out in PG movie back then. That's crazy.
but like
I thought this was
think
definitely a
about it.
PG-13 movie when I was watching it.
Yeah, but think about it this way, like if you go back to like the 80s and like, first half of the 90s, maybe even all the way through the 90s, PG was kind of what we have as PG-13 now. Like
Yeah,
things are different.
it's pretty wild though. I was like, they should definitely rework that.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So there are definitely two scenes that, whether I rewatch this movie or just haven't watched it for a couple of years will live rent free in my head. And I'm going to talk about the first one because I know you're going to talk about the second one. So the first one is, funny enough, like the last scene of the movie when we have Beetlejuice in the waiting room.
Hey, there goes Elvis. You okay? Well, looks like I'm next.
Trades it with the other guy.
Yeah.
He throws it on
The
his
shaman,
lap. Yeah, he throws it on his lap, and then he realizes that Beetlejuice swapped, and he sprinkles and shrinks his head. Hey, wait, hey. I can just hear his voice like higher pitched and higher pitched.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes, and will always be one of my favorite scenes from this movie. But the other one, Rico, would you like to take it away with the other favorite scene?
Yeah, well, definitely like one of my favorite parts of the movie is, well, and one of the things I appreciate about the movie just in general is I think it's probably the movie that introduced me to Harry Belafonte's music overall. That final scene, of course, where Lydia comes home and it's like it basically like one big happy family, like even with the ghosts characters as well, and you know, the movie begins with Gina Davis's character listening to Harry Belafonte's music. And this kind of the way that they kind of like bring that back full circle, and then she gets to kind of have like her moment, kind of floating around and dancing to the Banana Boat song.
Work, Sinora, work your body liner. Work, Sinora.
It's just really great. You get the moment with the parents there too, just kind of like having their like Catherine O'Hara is for one thing, is just also great in this movie. I love her. Just in general, she's just like a legend just throughout her whole career. But I just like she's used in a fun way in this movie, I think. And yeah, I just really appreciate that whole thing, and then how it integrates with the whole the waiting room scene at the end too. It's just a nice little like feather on the cap there, like he gets like his little like punishment. So yeah, that's really fun. Some of the other moments that I really liked, one, Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice, really, like, for the movie being called Beetlejuice, he's like not in a lot of the movie, like, which really shows the impact of the character, because the moments that he is used in the movie, he's used really well. And he's just a force throughout the whole movie. Michael Keaton is just awesome in this role. But I had to bring him back to my favorite line of his is when Alec Baldwin's character asks him what his qualifications are.
Well, I attended Juilliard. I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague.
Leah lived through the Black Plague and had a good time during that. He goes, I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it gets funnier every single time I see it. Not to mention that you're talking to a dead guy. Now, what do you think? You think I'm qualified? And just the way that he goes gradually from just like normal Michael Keaton voice to like full on Beetlejuice voice by the end of it is just like phenomenal. And I think, you see his career, later on too, especially now. Whenever you see him on screen, he's never not giving 100%. I think that's just what makes him one of the great actors of our time. And yeah, it's just really cool that this is kind of a role that kind of helped bring him out, and as well as Tim Burton, and they're always going to have that link. And then the next year they'll go on and do Batman together. So yeah, it's kind of like the birth of a beautiful collaboration here with this role.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean that will always be some of the lines from the original Beetlejuice movie that stick in my head. I heard something, and I don't know 100% if it's true, so don't quote me on it. I think that was an improv line. Like,
I've heard a lot of his stuff was. Yeah.
Like, I think some of those qualifications he listed off, I think some of them were improvised type of thing.
I also love the stuff with the football team and the underworld. I think those guys are really funny as well. There's some really good little like kind of side jokes here in this that are just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, it was one of those movies where, like, it's PG, so technically smaller children can watch it, but like there are jokes in there for like
for
you
sure.
Know what I mean? So you can enjoy it for a long time in your lifetime type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those movies that kind of can stand the test of time because it can, appeal to different audiences at the same time, basically.
Right.
So, but we can actually do this officially. When we were doing the countdown to Deadpool and Wolverine, we weren't able to like immediately do predictions for like going to the brand new movie.
There's only one movie, thank God.
Exactly. So thankfully, Rico, would you like to do some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay. Well, okay. So yeah, if we're being completely honest here, I'm always like really skeptical of movies that come out, especially 20 plus years after the original. I think in this case, it's about 25 years, or 26 years. So that's especially with Tim Burton's kind of recent streak of movies. He hasn't been like more. He has more misses than hits, I would say. I would say the last one that I enjoyed that he did was actually the Frankenweenie movie, that the animated remake that he did, and that was
I
back in
did
like
like that.
2012. I love that movie. That's actually a great movie. That was definitely back in like that Tim Burton wheelhouse too, because it's an original thing that he did back in, I think, the 80s as well. But I think yeah, I think this is something, again, just going back to that Tim Burton style of filmmaking. I think the original trailer was really cool. I think the addition of Jenna Ortega is kind of perfect casting.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see her and Winona Ryder as Lydia. Kind of seeing those two vibe off of each other. I think that's just going to be really fun to watch on screen. And again, just if you just kind of do the same things that brought you success in the first movie, like the really cool mix of like the practical and CG effects, not leaning too much into like making it look modern, but kind of making it go into like the practical thing. And I think I've seen some stuff where like him and Michael Keaton were talking about that too,
Right.
like making sure that these things were done right. So like I hope it sounds like they're doing all these things right there. And I'm excited to see stuff like the Willem Dafoe character. I think he's just like the perfect kind of like weird actor, but also a great actor that kind of fits into this world. And yeah, I'm also yeah, I think the underworld is going to be a fun part to kind of explore. I'm also worried that it's going to be too much of it. It's kind of like one of those things, like we got to do the same thing we did last time. Like, yeah, I know Beetlejuice is what we're all there to see, but I hope you're going to do the same thing where he's kind of like used in like used when he's needed, not just used to be used, I guess, is kind of the right thing. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with this. Actually, I'm very interested.
Yeah, same. And like I said, I mean, we're recording this before it came out. So I don't know. I can't, go on record officially, but I did hear there were some conditions set by Michael Keaton before he agreed to be in the sequel and stuff. And one of them was, I don't want Beetlejuice to have, a ton of
good.
the showing of the movie. Like he wanted it to be on the line of the last movie, where like that's how much he's in it, is type of thing, but it's really kind of more led by, he's like this ominous, always is like present but not there, like on screen type of thing in big chunks of the movie. So that, like I said, take that with a grain of salt. Have not watched it yet, so I don't know for sure, but like that's just something that I've heard.
It's like an anti-hero, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I think he should be used the same way for sure.
What I will say is, before I give my prediction or I don't, what I'm even going to call it, I, from the trailers so far, am getting like a Ghostbusters to Ghostbusters Afterlife vibe. And what I mean by that is, we have the director coming back, returning, the like original director. Like in the case of Ghostbusters Afterlife, it was the son of the original director, but that original director was still, Ivan Reitman was still coming to set as like a
I think he was in the movie too, as like the Harold Ramis stand-in. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I believe so. I think I wanted to fact check that, but I believe that's what I remember him being.
Wow. Yeah. But anyway, so we had the like quote unquote original director coming back, and then we also have the majority of the original cast returning, and kind of making
core cast for sure.
Yeah, and kind of making it out of like we want to make this movie to entertain the original fans of the original movie, and also bring in new fans to the franchise.
Right. Yeah,
like type of thing. And that's the kind of the vibe I'm getting. Like, it does not feel very different from the original in a good way. I'm not saying like it's a recycled or a rehash from the original, but the vibe I'm getting is that like the only reason all of these people are returning is to make this like fit and to make this right type of thing. Like that's like I said, have not watched it yet, but that's just the vibe I'm getting from the trailer. Because just like you were saying, I do think there is a good amount of practical effects that we can see. Like there's a scene where Beetlejuice says something about spilling his guts, and then he opens his shirt.
Yeah.
But that's you can tell that's a practical effect.
Oh yeah, they're definitely gonna do some practical stuff in there for sure.
Yeah. So I guess we could call this a bold prediction. I don't know. I don't know how much like it's really predicting is. I'm thinking we're getting a cameo from either Alec Baldwin or Gina Davis or both. But like neither one of them have been cited in the trailers, like at all, type of thing. That leads me to believe that they're, left out on purpose. I almost feel like had we even seen like some evidence of them still being in the house or like in the underworld or something like that, then that wouldn't have been like such a shocking thing. But the fact that anything pointing to them is completely like missing from trailers in general leads me to believe that they're going to pop up for a cameo. One of them or both of them are going to pop up for a cameo. Like that's kind of my bold prediction. Like we're going to see them.
I think at the very least we'll get some kind of nod to them in the underworld or something like that. Like we'll be like, yeah, they live over there or something like that. We'll even see like they're like the stretched out face version. So it won't necessarily be like the actors, but we'll see maybe the characters themselves like that. That could be kind of their way of just getting around, not having to bring in the actors if they didn't want to do it or something like that. I know Alec Baldwin's had some stuff going on lately, but I think at this point, that before the time he was filming, he was okay because he's been doing stuff like in between then. So yeah. So, and then Gina Davis, I know she's been doing stuff. I just haven't seen her. I feel like she's like one person I feel like I haven't seen in a while, but then I'll see her pop up periodically. I think she'll be a really cool, nostalgic cameo for sure. I think that's almost the one. That's one thing I'm almost kind of worried about with this sequel is that those two characters from the original I think are like kind of like the heart of the movies for me. Just because the story does essentially follow their journey from like their death to like kind of just transition to the underworld kind of thing, kind of like their whole world, their whole role, and kind of like almost like letting their home go and kind of like just kind of like accepting these people into their home and kind of like going back and forth between the two, I guess. So yeah, it would be kind of nice to know what kind of happens to them, but also like just having like these human characters that just like aren't exposed to like this supernatural world. And so I guess that's maybe where Jenna Ortega's like kind of character comes into play because she's Lydia's daughter. Right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And if we believe everything from the trailer, I'm sure stuff is in there, thanks to Marvel, I don't know if I can ever fully trust trailers ever.
Yeah, for sure.
But if we believe the trailers, it sounds like Jenna Ortega is Lydia's daughter, and she's coming from a place of ghosts don't exist. Ghosts aren't real.
She's a non-believer.
Right. So I don't know if like Lydia's just kept her away from that world, or if she's just never believed Lydia.
Okay, so
Lydia's never shown her.
So that plays into exactly what I was saying. Like she's gonna be the one that's kind of this person being exposed to a whole new world.
Right.
And so okay, that's kind of that was the one thing I was worried about them kind of like missing because they don't have the Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis characters. But I think Jenna Ortega is that's why she's perfect for this movie. I think because she plays into this dynamic with Winona Ryder, who has experience with this world. So it's gonna okay. Now I'm more intrigued.
Yeah, because one of the trailers has Jenna Ortega's voiceover, and she's in one of her lines is like something about
she says the name, right? That's the whole thing.
She says that.
I don't know if they edited it to say it 3 times, the same one time 3 times, but like she definitely does it to like definitely
that.
Yeah.
But there's another thing where she says like ghosts don't exist, and the only people that believe in ghosts are dumb or something. It's something like along those lines. Where she's
been a while since that's in the trailer, so
yeah,
I think it was like when it first came out. So I was like,
yeah, I've watched. I think there's definitely been multiple trailers. I can't remember how many teasers / trailers that have come out, but I've watched all of them just to kind of get like a sense of what to expect. But yeah. That's what I saw. She's coming from like I don't believe in this at all to being introduced to everything. So I'm interested to see how that's going, like how they get into that like type of thing, like why Lydia's kind of kept her from that the whole time type of thing. Because the way that the movie leaves off, I mean, I get they're gonna have to like explain that this is in real time. It's not gonna be like a time jump because no one looks the same. Like
they know. Do they establish who her dad is? Jenna Ortega's dad is in the movie yet?
Not in the trailers.
Okay, so maybe that could be something that plays into the story too.
Yeah,
an underworld thing.
Yeah, could be.
All right,
but yeah, there's a lot of questions. Yeah, I'm very interested to see, and I mean, so far, like some of the people that like the critics that got to see it, mostly good reviews. There were a couple that were not so pleasant, but it was more leaning to the side of it's fan service. Like you know what I mean? Like you okay. Like that the same people that said that about Ghostbusters Afterlife type of thing. Like you can't please everyone type of thing. But like most of the critics were saying that it was, really good performance from Michael Keaton and story holds up and so
So that's I mean, I it's one of those things where like you don't want to put the bar too high, but you don't want to put it too low. I think this is one of those good kind of like middle bar kind of expecting movies for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I'm excited to see it. And I guess, as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. Where does, the original Beetlejuice movie rank on kind of your I guess, tip of the iceberg spooky season movies? Like we're kind of slowly creeping into spooky season. This is kind of like our appetizer for getting into spooky season with movies. And are you excited for the sequel to come out? And are you going to be running out to see it like opening weekend? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Popping Off presents That Recap Show.